So before we stop for the beer break, Juice, and I asked Gumbi, we don't have the ability to rerun the tape, which will be a great day. Can you repeat for me and Russ what you were saying about being introduced to spirituality?
It's like being a child, right? Okay. So, let's say you were born, okay? Right. You're in diapers. You need somebody to help give you a little bit of direction, point you in the right way. It does not mean it's a reflection of your character, but it does mean you have to understand how things work. All right? Just like when you get to the Catholic Church, not all Catholics are great. I'll be honest with you. We have some terrible Catholics. We have
more than some, I think.
We have terrible Catholics. All right? We have some fantastic Catholics. We have saints. All right?
The rich and the haughty.
Right? So, but we have some terrible
Gather
Catholics.
Us in the people who suck.
Right?
Wow.
So,
wait a minute. I thought you were on the. That's an atheist role you're taking right now.
So, just like you have to have somebody guide you as a person, you have somebody guide you as a Catholic or a Christian. It does not mean that your nature is going to go one way or the other, but it means you should have somebody there to guide you.
And so I think that me and Russ, and I think Russ's words were better, so feel free to help me out here, Russ. Do you need a spiritual leader to be a good person then?
No.
Do you think you're better than having a spiritual leadership?
Go
ahead.
If you're looking down on people, I think God's going to look down on that. Maybe not look down on you, but look down on that trait of you looking down on people. Like, hold on, like, stop the bus. Like, you're not a Catholic to look down on people. You're not a Christian to look down on people. If you're doing that's your prerogative, and God's gonna be like, hey, I'm not all about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not about that. I didn't ask you. Like I said, to be Christian is to struggle, and like when you join up to whatever denomination or whatever church, it's not like, congratulations, you're a great person. Like, it's like, hey, you've taken the first step to try to become a great person, but there's also people out there that are doing their own way of trying to become a great person too. You know what I'm saying? Not to be so relativistic, but we're all on a journey, and we all have different ways, and we all have different situations that we deal with. But I don't think that anyone should be looking like down on someone like, I'm so great because I do this and I don't do that. Look at what George over there is doing. just an example.
It's tough because, I mean, we are talking about constructs here, right?
Right.
Boy, yeah.
Human constructs. It's made up of humans who are imperfect, who have both the capability of doing good and evil things. So if you just take for the Crusades, for example, there was a lot of things done in the name of God, raping, pillaging, conquering, you name it, in the name of God. So I think the argument and the question is a tough one for us Christians to want to face, because their argument is like, if your system is corrupt, I'd rather raise my child outside of that system. Probably guarantee he's going to have just as equal, if not better, results.
Yeah.
And that's tough for us to hear.
Right.
It is.
It is. I mean, because, basically the argument, and I heard Matt Dillahunty say this one time on the Atheist Experience. He's like, if you need a book to stop you from killing, usury, raping, etc., 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 by all means, stay with the book. He's like, I'm saying I can do those things, X, Y, Z, without that.
Because most people aren't reading the Bible anyway.
But
true.
So it's tough. It's a tough thing to face.
Yeah, and we're going to cover the Crusades here shortly, because the Crusades are greatly misunderstood historically, because they weren't all fought. Everyone thinks it was this great religious crusade. There was so much more involved than that. So we're going to dive really deep into the Crusades in a future podcast very shortly, probably in the next, hopefully before the end of the year, because it's a greatly misunderstood piece of history. And we'll go over that. And another one we'll cover, hopefully this year, might parlay into early next year, will be the Inquisition, because that's also a greatly understood part of history. So, because there's a lot more involved. Well, look at the Crusades. but nobody ever actually looks at the Crusades historically to find out what actually happened.
Yeah, we don't even have to
So-
go. I mean, I'm just saying that bad things did happen during the Crusades.
Of course it did.
There's
It's
no-
war.
there's-
Everything is.
Not even in question.
It's war.
But, there's bad things happening today with war in the name of God and Christianity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well,
it's
the
a tough thing to look at.
The
That's not
one
even
thing
a
I
Catholic
always
thing.
come back to with like Christianity or the Catholic Church or any of that, it all has some messed up stuff in it, but that's not the overarching thing. I always go back to the line in the Bible. Forgive me, I don't know where it's at. I'm not a Dewey Decimal System, but like you're Peter, and I'm gonna build my church on this rock, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, which means that they're going to try, which means it's going to be messy, which means some effed up stuff is going to happen along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But like that, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The baby might have shit in the bathwater, but you can't say like, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know where we
I'm
go.
not
with
trying
this.
to-
I don't know. I don't know.
It doesn't
what I'm
exist.
saying.
That word.
But you can't be like, oh, it's all bad.
It doesn't
throw it
exist
out.
in a vacuum. That's the thing. It doesn't.
Right.
All the stuff, all the messages, good or bad, the actions, good or bad. It can't exist in a vacuum, and you have to make.
It's a big
judgments.
There's a lot of people in it. Some messed up stuff
No,
happens
I'm
in
not.
history.
I'm definitely not
Right.
throwing it all out,
Right.
especially with the Catholic Church. I think I've been fair in terms of.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
I think you have been. Yeah, for sure.
I'm just saying that it's still going to happen because we're human,
Absolutely.
and it's tough for us to want to face that. That maybe some of it is how we implement our systems in the self-imposed part we do.
I mean, I kind of disagree a little bit with. I know, shocker.
How dare he?
Because I think, yes, maybe certain people can raise their family just as moral as like a godly family. But looking at society, my perception,
You don't really see it as much.
you don't see it as much, and I see it going a whole different direction because God isn't part of the majority. I would say you represent the majority, George and Russ. I think like most people I hear echo your statements, and when I'm out in the real world, it's dysfunctional because there's no real common fabric of goodness. It is a very like, hey, we're going to be autonomous, but only if I agree with your autonomy, and else we're going to go to war. And so I do feel like without this overarching, and this is probably a lot of atheists will say, the Bible was implemented to govern and keep the people kind of oppressed or to follow or to be sheep. Well, I don't believe that, but I do believe it is important because people by nature atrophy or follow the law of thermodynamics. I mean, it gets worse over time, not better.
Yeah.
Think we get worse over time?
I do. I
I
mean-
feel like even though like with the internet and things are blowing up and like people are so loud with their opinions, I feel like in general we're kind of heading in the right direction.
Wow.
You do.
Yeah.
The decline of Western society is on the
Yeah, you're.
No,
the
yeah,
friggin'
I
express
see it
lanes, man.
declining.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm off that. I'm sorry, George. I love you, but
Oh no, it's alright. No, I mean that's fine.
I mean, God bless you for seeing the world in that way, but
no,
man,
I hate human beings too, and I'm saying
We-
that. Like, I hate
yeah.
people.
No,
I feel like we
I
live in a society
hate
now where
people
people
and-
don't only disagree with you, they want to destroy you if you think differently.
Oh man. So
I mean,
where
cancel
where
culture,
everyone's
I
quick to
mean-
pull out their phone and make an internet meme out of you. Like if you disagree with me, I don't only want to disagree with you, I want to like make sure you lose your livelihood, or you know what I'm saying?
Is that most people
Like,
though, or is that the
no,
worst people that we're seeing on
but
the
that's
internet?
I guess that's
that
what
would be
we're
my
seeing. That's
argument.
the people
Is
that are
yeah,
sticking
they're out
up
there,
and
but that's the loud side. That's like this loud like minority. I feel like would be my counter argument.
no, I hear you. I feel like it's a smaller group, but I feel like with the internet and like an anonymous, like people can be anonymous and they support those things because I don't know those people, so what do I care if they get ruined?
why are you guys
You know what
making
I'm
me
saying?
agree with George?
It's a really good point to Western civilization declining. So I guess, do we need more religion at this point?
That's just it, though. I think that
I would maybe argue.
I think that everything is evolving to a better point. And
You think it's right now?
I
You don't see the mob mentality going on?
I see the
No,
mob
but that's just
mentality.
is the mob mentality putting us in a worse place, or is it creating equality? So
Well, you're saying front lines of the
Worldwide.
war just change things, so to speak.
Worldwide. I'm not saying just Western.
That
Worldwide.
I will applaud that statement. A lot
Yeah.
of education is happening.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
are going to accept or reject the education.
Right.
So that is a good point.
Yes.
Right, people are being pushed outside their comfort zone. People are thinking about things they haven't thought about before.
So education
that's a
is
good
a
thing.
good thing.
Yeah, I feel like I disagree with you guys, but
It
I don't know, I feel
feels
you
like
guys are
we're
arguing.
headed for something bad, but you know, like back to the purgatory thing, like going through like trial by fire. You're being purified through fire. So maybe our culture is going through rough times, and we'll come out of it better than we were. It just feels a little dark right now. Like it feels like a dark point in history.
I think
And
we
you're
are.
getting into-
Everything's being
Yeah, and you're getting into human patterns now. I mean, look, you rewind humans for hundreds and thousands of years. It's the same just churning over and over again.
yeah.
But it's
So,
it's
it's just coming to another head, and it's going to reinvent itself.
I mean,
and
things
come
feel a
out the
little
other side. of
bleak.
something.
Like I felt some bleakness within the last couple of months.
Yeah, for
all
sure.
this stuff.
Yeah.
You've got, a pandemic. Then you've got riots. Then you've got this and that. And everyone's like, the discourse is not great.
But
I feel like something good will come out of it at some point. I don't know when that point will be.
But I think you're
Maybe it's
letting
now?
I think you're letting the riots overshadow what the protests were. Okay? Because the protests were not the riots.
We're officially on a whole other topic now.
Right.
It's
You
all right, I
just
like where's
changed-
evolved,
you
though.
just
I like it, and I
changed
want to
it.
hear
I'm
what Russ
just
is saying.
talking
Russ is
about,
shaking his
like-
head. I'm dying to hear.
Go
what
ahead.
No, I was just like, I don't see us coming out of the wave
You
and
don't?
surviving. I think
Wow.
we got a brick on our thing, and we're just trying to keep from.
I've got back
Drowning
George in
quicker.
this one.
Yeah, no,
I've got
I-
back George in this one.
I'm
I
Team
think
Russ
I
here.
think we're getting in a better place.
You know what?
Although-
I'm a little bit between what I just said and what Russ said.
So,
Well,
yeah,
there's part of me that there's part of me that's like, there's a possibility we're going to come out of this. There's a possibility things are going to get worse. But I would like to think that it's going to improve.
So do you think? I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead. You go.
No, you.
If everyone was a good Catholic, would that
We'd
help?
be burning witches right now.
That's
hands
not going to
down.
that's not going to happen.
You had to say that, didn't you?
That's not going to happen. I'm not a good Catholic.
I'm picking on Catholics. Do we need
I'm
more
not a good-
religion?
Did you say Catholic specifically, or did you want to say good Christian?
Religion. Strict
Okay.
religion. Do we need more
Oh,
strict
okay.
religion to help balance out our country?
No, well, you can't police morality. What are you going to do? Force people to be something? No. So, without God coming out of the sky and saying, "Hey guys, I'm here." How's that going to happen? Like, that's not going to happen. So why it's irrelevant whether I think that should happen or not. I don't think that should happen.
David
think
LaGuardia,
people
where are
should-
you?
So people should come to those conclusions on their own. Right?
That's exactly
People
their
should
point.
come to right. Well, my point was not ever that I think people should be something, forced to be something.
Yeah, I
You got to come to the conclusion on your own.
I think religion needs a whole overhaul in the Western civilization.
Overhaul
I
how?
do not think that. I'm going on record. I don't think it's that sustainable. I really don't. And this is where we talked
But-
about this before. His argument of that. Well, we're a Christian nation, and look at all the problems we have.
We're not a Christian
I
nation.
don't believe that. I never believed that.
No.
But this is the whole. The whole.
Wait. What?
We are
Yeah.
not a Christian nation.
Well,
that is
first of all,
such
you
that's such a
say
myth.
that-
It's such a myth.
I don't even.
You say
you're
that
speaking
Christianity
craziness right
is
now.
not sustainable.
It's a myth.
Then maybe so.
This
But-
version of Western Christianity. I'm talking specifically about ours. Basically,
really-
it has its roots in dispensationalism. But yeah.
Can you explain that?
So, Schofield, 1800s. Basically, when this new doctrine of dispensations was given, a lot of things in terms of doctrine and theology shifted here in the West. In terms of, basically, our Christianity became more Western thinking than Eastern thinking. When it's funny because it was birthed out of the East. But when it shifted west in ideology, for me, it became more geopolitical. and political in nature, and used more as a hammer. And then if everything kind of looks like a nail, you can just hammer it, right?
Example.
Okay. Any war that we've had, there are a lot of people who go to war because they feel like this is what God calls them to do.
Who's doing that? Who did
God
that?
bless them.
Every war.
If you
in
never
the
heard
last-
George Bush, God bless America. If you're not with us, you're against us. A war
That's-
against. I'm not saying that's
Yeah,
what
not
you-
everyone's on board with that.
I know that. I
Yeah.
agree with you. I'm not saying everyone is on board, but what I'm saying is it gets used for that, and the perception for the people on the outside of that is like, what is Christianity?
Well,
Did I help you?
and the thing is that
Sort of.
according to the Supreme Court, and this is on record, according to the Supreme Court, we are a humanist country. And humanist,
You know they say that, Juice. We're a Christian nation.
we are not a
bro.
Christian nation. We were never formed. We were formed for freedom of religion. That does not make you Christian.
Doesn't it say "In God We
If
Trust"?
if
too,
you
like,
if
on
you
a
look
dollar
up some of the
bill?
recent polls, I think the majority of Americans still believe in a God.
Of course.
So,
But what I'm saying is that it's
I don't
again,
know, it's
there's
close.
multiple books, multiple
Yeah, I'm
studies,
hopeful that
multiple
that's the
academic
truth, but
papers
I don't know,
that
man.
have gone through on this. The founding fathers wanted freedom of religion, even if that means you're an atheist. Okay,
Listen, and I hear
so
Juice, I agree that okay, so I hear your point. On paper, we are not a Christian nation,
exactly.
but we are a Christian nation.
The
Just-
majority.
yeah,
Of
Majority are.
culturally,
Majority
we are
are.
a Christian
Yes.
nation.
Yeah.
You know, and you could say the same thing, like, right? I could say we are an English-speaking nation, right?
Yes, you could.
English is not. We do not have an official language in America, right? So I feel like that's the same thing. So even though, like, on paper we're not a Christian nation, we're definitely a Christian
Well,
nation. Just to counter argue
The
that part.
majority are.
Well,
Yeah.
let me
strong majority.
I think it's not the same thing as being a Christian or an English-speaking country, because I would say, to Gumby's point, it's given a name Christianity, but most Christians I've ever met, I would argue that they're not practicing Christianity.
Ouch.
Say it one more time.
That's my.
Most Christians I've ever met growing up throughout my life are not practicing Christianity.
True. I would say that.
I would have to agree with that.
They're practicing self-worship.
Yeah. On that, next beer.
Oh,
Good stuff. Good stuff, Russ Gumbi. Like a poet over there, bro.
Yeah.
What's the last
even
two? So I
know.
don't have to keep rolling.
Last two are 5 and 6, I think. 5 and 6. 5 and 6.
Let's just see what we get.
Dude, first
Tell me
roll.
that happened
That's-
last time up until the last two. Like,
That's
stop.
Providence. That's Providence.
Wait, guys, stop it.
Apparently he's on our side.
Just accept it, brother.
All right.
Divine intervention.
This is a golden.
right?
That is definitely
Dortmunder
golden.
Gold.
Man, I'm
It's a
big
little
kids
frothy.
every
It's
time.
definitely frothy.
No, I said
It's
said
golden.
It the last time, but I changed it to.
I'm confused.
Elliot
I don't know
Ness.
what's what anymore.
Ooh,
This
hold
is-
on.
This one smells a little more hoppy.
Oh,
That smells
wait,
a little
I don't
hoppy, and it's
know
got some
anymore.
gold to it.
I don't know anything.
Dortmunder.
Yes, sir.
Ooh,
It's Dortmunder Gold, though.
dang, I'm a.
That may have been my favorite conversation, I think. to be
That is
honest.
definitely
was
Dort.
the
That's
one.
Dort
That's
right
my
there.
favorite
That's
one.
Dort. Yep.
That might be a Dort.
I'm going Dort.
You're
I already
such a
went with
dork, Aaron.
I was also thinking about that joke. Thank you.
That's Dort.
I was like, should I leave it? Should I go with it?
What do you
I
think?
feel like you should just go with your gut. You could have been the one that said the joke.
Delivered it, but I feel like you.
I'm going with Dort. What do you think?
I think it just worked
Golden
better for you.
something or
Sometimes
other.
it just happens that way.
There is also the Sam
Thanks,
Adams
man.
No.
smell.
You,
If I send you a shirt sometime, will you put
said the
holes
box
in
had
it
a
for me?
golden Something in there.
So you're as
golden
old as I am?
Burning, Commodore, Dort, Edward Fitzgerald, Elliot
One of
Ness,
those
and
was
Sam
a golden
Adams.
something. I know there was a golden.
Yeah, the Dortmunder Gold.
Yeah,
That's a little
Dortmund.
strong
That's a
for
Dortmunder?
Yeah.
Is that what everyone's going with for this one?
I am.
See,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
throwing
that
off.
is what it. That's what it is.
All right, I'll go
final
with that.
answer.
All right.
Dortmunder gold.
Not happy about it, but I'll say Dortmunder.
I mean, I've already said Dortmunder.
Ah!
It's hard to tell. I mean,
So
I
have we
swear
tipped
Dortmunder
anyone
was-
off at Great
Actually,
Lakes
George
Brewing
already
Company
called
that
Dort.
we're talking about their products tonight?
Hashtag
Is this a thing?
No, I'm saying I already voted.
hashtag
Dortmunder.
Great Lakes Brewing Company.
Yep. Actually, yep. Mike and George both did. I think it was 3.
The third one. Okay, so which one haven't I voted for?
You have not voted.
I'll have to go Elliot Ness then.
Yep. Elliot Ness. Neither one of you have that one. Neither one of you have that.
What do I not have?
Let's see, Edward. You already have Elliot Ness. You do not have Dort.
I just
please
voted on
edit
it.
this,
I just
Gumbi.
said that's
All right,
what-
then you've got it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gumby,
What didn't I vote for? I don't even know anymore.
you didn't vote for Dort yet.
Really? Oh, I'll go Dort.
Yeah. Oh,
You're lacking on the Brews portion of this podcast, Gumby. Let's go.
oh no, I take it back. That is no. You know what? I can give it to you.
I did.
I'm sorry. You're GC. You're G. You voted on Dort on number 3.
Also, I did.
You did not vote for Dort yet.
Right,
Did I
'cause
vote Elliot Ness? Because I want to go Elliot Ness.
Elliot Ness, you did not.
Alright, I'll go Elliot.
All right, GC.
Oh crap! So I mean, this last
Taking the
beer is
best of
dark
what's
as
left.
all. Like,
I was saying.
clear straight up porter. I'm gonna have to guess Dortmunder on it. Yeah.
Wait, what'd you guess for the porter then?
I can't remember.
That is definitely Dort. Because I love me some Dort.
Maybe Commodore Perry.
I mean, I love Dortmunder, so I'm kind of embarrassed that I voted something else.
As soon as I tasted that,
You know,
I love me some
For
Dort.
future Brewlettes, we'll have to get something to cleanse the palate too.
Right, you
I
need
have-
like
yeah,
sorbet.
Ginger
or
ale.
sherbet.
Ginger ale.
When you-
Okay.
I was
Ginger
thinking
ale
bourbon.
would work.
I was
Yeah,
thinking
ginger
bourbon,
ale.
but all right. Yeah,
Bourbon?
I like,
is
I like
a-
Gumby's approach.
Gumby, we know what happens when we all get hammered in the last portion of
Makes for a good podcast.
We progressively
Actually,
get like,
oh,
oh, did I just
feeling a
argue
little
against
cheated.
myself?
Say, Gumby, if you go that way,
Yeah.
gin.
Yeah. All right.
Gin would cleanse it.
If you
To be
notice-
honest,
if you
I-
notice we're a
So
lot-
basically, I've only had 10 ounces of beer since being here. That's way
yeah,
low,
that's definitely
man.
an
Right.
evolution because we'd be hammered at the end. I think we all have our story where we're like,
Like
2 Christmases ago.
You know what? You should designate one
should
guy
not
to just
listen to that.
pound and just see where it goes. The wild card.
Oh,
we do need to have.
we
like
have
a-
done that.
Yeah, didn't we try that?
We have done that.
Like a drinking game for like a person. Oh, we were gonna do like the debate
We have to
style,
do-
and then have
let's do
someone
it.
be
oh, that would be
someone
horrible
be the judge,
because
All right,
and then the loser has to like pound a beer.
George and I, you're not going to work on that.
I mean, George, don't you come in half baked half the time?
Oh!
Here's the thing: it's Sundays, and I drink so no one brunches harder than me in this room. No one. No
Starts
one.
with mimosas, ends with
Starts
Elliot.
So you guys have a question?
Go ahead, Russ. I'm sorry. I'm
I do have one actually.
go for it, please.
Go ahead.
It's another very rudimentary, elementary,
Go ahead.
basic question.
I have a
Power of prayer versus the power of free will. Why pray if you free will, and what power of prayer is there? You know,
Because you have the
I'd
choice
go
to pray or
power
not.
prayer all day, don't
but
care.
if you know,
I've argued that it's the biggest waste of time ever.
You have. You have.
Okay.
You have.
honestly,
you know what? Let me throw a third thing in there. Sorry. This will really stir the drink.
Okay.
God's plan, you know, free will, prayer, God's plan.
honestly, I
That's
have,
predestination, isn't it?
I have struggled with this so much, and I've had this conversation with so many people, and George is cracking up.
Juice. I thought Juice was really funny. I'm sorry. It may have been a little smidgen.
Pull us in.
Go ahead.
But I feel like you can pray and pray and pray, and maybe you will not experience God's intervention in your life.
You're never.
And right, well, okay, and that's your thought. And then a lot of Christians I talk to, their attitude is like, yeah, God he'll do what he does in his time. He has a mysterious hand. But if you play the Ouija board, immediately
Listen,
the
I'll play
devil
the
will
Ouija
be
board,
like,
man.
you rang?
God,
You know what
that'd
I'm
be
saying? Like
awesome.
RSVP
That
right
would
away.
be
But-
lit,
and then
dude.
there-
I would like
there
to
are
play something,
times-
red lights, candles. I'd have like Slayer
you know-
playing, and we'd all do we'd like do a debate, and then we'd all do the Ouija board. That would be a great show.
But you know what I'm saying.
I feel you.
I feel like God woke up on 9/11 and was like, oh, that was today. You know what I'm saying? Or like, was he there when the Holocaust was happening? And like, oh, look what's happening down there.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
that's interesting. Like, I'm not trying to like be like that towards God, but there's some times where I feel like I heard this on an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. It was a
Okay.
joke by Ricky Gervais, and he said, like, who are you to like ask God to help you find your car keys when He let 8 million Jews die?
Right.
You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? So there's times, like I have shared with you guys, I experience some intermittent, like chronic pain, and I'm always asking God to like intervene in my life. Mm-hmm. But then I'll like go on Instagram and I see kids without limbs and stuff, and I'm thinking like, well, they're never gonna have their limbs, so like, who am I to think like, is it worthless to be praying for this?
Right. Now,
should the prayer be different than like asking for intercessory prayer?
Before we have at it, I would like to admit, because we've had a similar conversation before, I would like to concede to a portion of Juice's argument that I really like Juice's argument about how when you're praying, maybe there's like some internal conflict that you're overcoming, or I will concede to that maybe in this discussion you're helping yourself like self-repair. But 100%, I think any outward
actual grant me this wish type prayer
is absolutely not. It's simply coincidence. There's, like you said, there's zero chance, because I know Mike and Juice really believe that their prayers were answered, and I have a hard time believing that the Jews' prayers weren't answered. But Juice, found love, and like Mike's knee stopped hurting. Like it's a hard swallow, man. And I'm surprised you guys do, really.
So that's where I'm a little like with you on that, George. And my cynicism, like I don't want the listeners to think like I'm being too hard, because I am a Catholic. I am a Christian. I try all the time. My like cynicism doesn't come from being hateful. It comes from being like, you're skeptic you have your highs and your lows with faith,
You do.
and that's how you become better with it.
And that's
like,
where I'm at
tested
right
through
now.
Fire
with the babies that get killed, or by whatever means the innocent are being tormented and killed and tortured, whatever it is. That's where my dip in the faith happens right there, and like along those lines of prayer.
There's nothing deeper than that prayer, than the innocent being hurt and then begging.
Well, that's what
God
I'm saying.
in
Like
the most deepest spiritual, most meaningful, helpless moment of their life, and they're just begging for this, powerful person to intervene and help them, and being ignored. Yeah,
and then I flip the coin and say, okay, well maybe whatever effect was meant from that instant to change a bigger picture, like you kind of
that's how I try to rationalize
nothing
it. Like,
nothing.
Is there a bigger picture that, because and you hear these things about like God has a purpose for everyone. What about the homeless person that lives under a bridge? What's the purpose for them? Is somebody gonna like ride past there and be like, I better do something with my life so I don't become that, and then they become
well, not even that guy. What about the 1-year-old walking down the street that gets blown to bits? What's
or
like
for
that?
Why or why does God have a crying statue? Like, why not so that people can worship a statue? Is it for like an old lady to bring in her like grandson who's fallen away, and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm Christian now?
Well,
like, what is it for? Like, what are these things for? Like,
I'm gonna sound really harsh right now. I'm gonna sound really.
I'm gonna be harsh back. Don't
really,
worry.
Just do it.
Really
Rip the
harsh
Band-Aid
right
off.
now.
Just say it.
Really harsh right now.
Tell me what you believe.
So, if I'm God up there,
yeah,
and I'm listening to all
all
these
powerful,
people,
all knowing, yep,
and I've given them all this ability to make sure that they can help all of their fellow men. If I was God, I would look down and say, grow up, bitch. Yeah. Because think about it. We complain. No. Seriously. Think about it. Think about it. We whine and we whine and we whine and we whine.
Yes,
we whine.
Screw you. You made your choices.
So,
what about
think about
the
it.
2 million homeless children in the street?
Think about it.
God's looking down and saying, grow up, you punk.
Think about it. How many? How many? Wait. Let me finish. Before you.
He did say grow up.
Let me finish.
I'm gonna remind you of that.
How many people have multi-millions of dollars across this earth. What are you doing with it?
The conversation is changing.
Think about it.
Well,
now,
Gumby, that gets back into
hold
our
on.
decay of Western
Hold on.
society
Hold on.
comment. And
how
put that
many
on
of
mine.
us?
Bingo.
How many of
Back on your
us?
side.
How many of us are going out there to take care of our fellow human being? How many of us are investing your money and your time to take care of the homeless, to take care of those little babies? How much money have you given? How much money have you given? How much money have you given? Okay? So I don't want to hear another person speak up and ask about all these little babies if they can't show me their receipts and tell me that they are stepping up to take care of these babies.
But that
Yes, because every single one of you atheists and you Christians, if you cannot step up and tell me that you are taking care of your fellow human being, that you can question God because He gave you every resource to take care. And if every single person gave $1 damn, every single person would be taken care of on this earth. Sure.
Okay.
Drop mic.
Boom. I would like to say, first of all, one, I like a lot what you just said. Two, I admire your passion. Three, we're talking about direct prayer.
Right.
And,
by the way, yeah, 100%. Going back to my whole the ship's going down.
Yeah,
That's
I feel
you're
like we're
right.
not those passionate.
We all suck. But again,
Exactly.
We're talking about
prayer.
Yeah, we're talking about prayer and
uh-huh.
It was beautiful.
the effectuality of
Yes,
it.
it was
Yes.
great, and I loved it.
I don't
And
think
if
anyone
it-
here
I would
disagrees
give
with
it
that
an
point.
Oscar if I had
the
one.
thing is if it's not changing you, then you're not the ones that, because prayer is supposed to change you, okay? Prayer is supposed to change the human. Prayer is supposed to make everybody go out and become a better person. It is the tuning fork of God to instill in you the want to do better. Prayer is
Well,
the
but
tuning
if I don't get
fork.
up, if I say the prayer for the kid, but I don't get up and do anything, well, I prayed.
Yeah, and guess what? Now you are held to that judgment
Why
for not
am I-
taking care of that baby.
But I prayed for it.
We prayed for it.
What put that
Doesn't
prayer
matter.
in your heart?
I saw infomercial with dead and dying kids in the street.
So what-
Damn,
so
God,
what-
help those kids.
So what'd
will
you do about it?
I prayed.
And he donated $5.99.
No, I didn't do anything.
So
I prayed.
So now you are held to that standard for not going out of your way to take care of that baby.
But we're talking about direct
I prayed,
effective
though.
prayers. though,
Okay,
dude.
I think I know what. I think I see a disconnect here.
There's a
Please,
complete
'cause I
disconnect.
definitely feel-
100%
I'm like-
disconnect
So-
between us and Jews.
So Christians typically believe that we are the body of Christ. And
Yes.
so if you're praying and you're feeling led to pray, you probably should be also responding with your time and your gifts. But there have been people that have experienced miracles and stuff. So I think what we're covering two stones here is one is the power of prayer. Another is the experience of miracles through prayer. Without physical humans being involved, more God just anointing and
Okay, but then it goes back to I don't need God's spiritual guidance to get up and go help a kid that's on the street that's hurting. That's not spiritual. That's not. There's nothing. That goes back to I don't need.
But it is.
I'm a good person. I see a kid on the street. I get up. I go help him. I give him some food.
But it is.
It's a separate path, but it might be parallel, but it's a separate path. I
You
don't need
are
spiritual guidance for that. I need empathy to my fellow human.
But how many people are doing
We're gonna
that?
rewind. Well, that's another problem. That's
But
another
it's
issue.
the same problem.
But can you be Christian without claiming to be Christian? You know what I mean?
Right.
Can't-
No, but that gets
accidentally
into.
Christian. You're very-
I pray 12 hours a day for those kids to be helped on the street, but I don't get off my butt and do anything about it.
Exactly.
What?
Right.
But Juice, we're talking about the effect of prayer.
The effect of prayer is supposed to change all of humanity. It's not just simply.
Yeah, because at that point, is it also legitimate prayer? You know what I mean? Is it?
Okay, right. Okay, so what you're saying is my prayer will get me up and go help that kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
If God is going to use
If
you,
it's a real prayer, you're saying I become a doer.
if
Yes.
you are praying,
Ah, man, I don't know, dude.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think I want to do all the things I've prayed about. That's a lot of work for me.
well,
That's the point. That's
it's
the
not.
point.
no, I think I get it. Like we're not gods, and we can't fix everything, but
No.
we will
Right.
desire, and we can pray for everything. But we're also when I say parts of the body, we're different parts of the body supposed to do different things.
Right.
And so we may care about what that hand is supposed to be doing. We might want the hand, but our task will be assigned. I mean, I feel called to do certain things, and only through prayer can I feel these callings.
I kind of
Again,
feel,
I also feel
I
like
feel all of you guys on this point, and to Aaron's point, I think sometimes prayer is a cop-out.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I think we could probably all agree with that.
We all
on
agree with
some
that.
level. I'm reminded of a story I remember reading, I think in one of C.S. Lewis's books, where he was talking about Mother Teresa, and where she was serving the poor in Calcutta, doing her work that she's done her whole life, right?
Right.
And someone came up to her, went on this pilgrimage to finally meet her. And this person was well-to-do, wealthy, all of that. And finally got the opportunity, as someone's literally helping people dying from, you name the disease, Mother Teresa was there helping without making any money. It's not like she was a televangelist that we see on TV here in America, in planes and, all of that stuff. So I think it gets filtered through some of that sometimes. But this person asked her, I really want to be able to help and serve and do this kind of thing. And I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember exactly. But she asked, what can I do? Help me to pray. And the response was something similar like, you don't need to pray about this. It's the right thing to do.
Right.
In other words, don't waste my time.
She had like a very long period where she felt no consolation about God. Like she felt total desolation. But she still did what she did. But I feel like there was a driving force behind her of like, even though I'm not witnessing God or experiencing him in any way possible, I still think he's there.
If it's a human thing, you don't. Some people feel like they need to do that and pray, but if you see someone, the Good Samaritan struggling on the street, hurt, the humanness inside of you makes you want to help them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a masquerade.
I'm not
Parade
gonna
is
stop.
masquerading as a.
If someone gets hit by
As
a
a
car,
person
I'm not
doing a
going to
good thing.
stop. Oh, let me pray about this. See if this is God's will for me to help them. Dear
Right.
God,
No, it's instinctual to
Right.
help somebody to
Yeah.
jump into action. Like if you saw something like that, if you drove past, you're like a monster.
Well, that's another thing too. Now we're getting into that facet. So a young kid, let's say he's 8 years old, he's been praying for 5 years to someone help him, and then I see him on the side of the road. I'm like, hey, come on in my car, dude. Let me help you out. And has his prayer been answered because I just felt like a good human to pick him up and put him in my car?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that just normal biological, organic human interaction for some
we
good
don't know
person?
if that's not God's
Well, I
like
don't
guiding
know. I mean,
hand
if he
that brought the
specifically
two
asked
of
for
you
that,
together.
I wouldn't touch that.
I mean, I don't want to
Okay,
get too
so if
far
you were the
away
kid
from, like,
you'd be like, God answer my prayer and send
What
me
if
this.
he did? I mean,
I guess that's we're talking about that
I know. I mean,
validation of prayer's effect.
yeah, I don't.
Is it like I don't know if someone said it was kind of a coincidental thing, or someone mentioned a
I
coincidental.
think it is. I think I did.
God
Sorry,
works
my opening
through
notes.
people.
Now is it just coincidental timing that I pick the kid, I pick you up, right? You answer my prayer. Well yes, put that on the prayer board.
I mean,
Prayer
we're
one.
talking about direct. We're kind of talking about the direct intervention. And I feel like Juice kind of got away with that. He kind of was talking about like, I don't know, maybe like a larger picture, and we all agree with it. But we're talking about the difference between you. And I'm talking because we had this conversation before. You gave up. You said, "I know prayers are answered." I was
Some
asking
are.
God for love, and you found Kendra. Beautiful notion, by the way. You said you were down and out. Your knee was killing you.
No, it wasn't.
And you prayed.
It was a minor pain.
All right. So why is it these? And then also just going back, reminder. I don't know if this is helping my argument, but
Wait,
you were like, "Grow up," and then so you were like, you said, if God creates this universe and they're ruining it, grow up, bitch. So why is it like these 2-year-olds or these young children who haven't even experienced life yet, who are told about God and they're just having this beautiful, honest prayer for, safety and, whatever it is, and they're not getting it, but you found love and his knee got hurt. Why? And you don't think that's just coincidence?
No, here's the thing.
I'm saying the direct intervention of God in prayer is not real.
So
It's-
there's a difference between guidance and being guided to do things and listening and then not. Okay, there was once
are you saying
there
that's
was
prayer?
once a Christian, a saint, And he said there will be more Christians in hell who did not listen to what God told them to do than will be in heaven. And that's simply because when you are told to do something and you're given guidance to do something, you're supposed to do something.
Who said that, by the way?
I'm trying to remember.
I think everybody understands that. I think the argument that's left remaining is George's direct intervention, to where it's not
Thank you, Mike.
people kind of listening to God. Like I think that's covered. But I think God working and answering prayers directly, like mine and George, I want to say I went in there not believing God would have the time to look at somebody who had maybe a 3 out of 10 pain.
Same way.
And I'm like, I could live like this the rest of my life. But I was more embarrassed for the people that were praying, calling for people that wanted to be prayed for. Mm-hmm. So I went out there to like relieve their discomfort. And I felt a physical snap. So in the Bible, Jesus says, don't share this miracle with anybody. And that rings personal to me because when you do, people that don't experience your miracle can't relate to your miracle. So you will question me, and I totally understand it because you're like, sounds like coincidence. God warned me that would happen through the Bible. You know what I mean? Because there's no way. You didn't feel the snap in your hip and the knee heal, and you were still doubtful for 3 days later, and then finally you couldn't doubt it anymore.
What do you mean God warned you that it was going to happen?
I mean, reading the Bible, when you read the blind men being healed, and Jesus says, don't tell these things, and don't tell the people around you, and then the people around them, when they do hear, it kind of pans out to be
telling
bad.
Everybody now, because we have listeners in Zimbabwe and Finland and...
Yeah, and I don't think it's not bad. Just know that when you share your personal relationship with God, and this goes back to your about the 8-year-old on the side, and his prayer may well have been answered. That's God's relationship with him, but maybe he didn't technically work through you, really. You know what I mean? It was just bigger than that, and I think God can react to 2 different people in 2 different ways, or one at a time. You know, it's not and or with God.
Yeah.
You know, so George, I just want to say I totally relate. I was not deserving with my pain compared to, you know, kids. But I've been chewing on. I sent the link in our podcast or in our channel about Faustina, Saint Faustina, I think.
Okay.
She has a article. Well, she has a journal, and she wrote. She was known to have visions, and she had this vision of 2 paths in the woods, and one was covered in thorns and stones. And actually, it goes first. It goes. Well, she saw these people singing and dancing and skipping along a paved path, a glorious path. And at the end of the path, they skipped right into the pit of hell, basically. And the other path was covered with thorns and rocks and agony and pain and suffering. And these people were slowed down. And when they got to the end of the journey, they remembered the pain no more, instantaneously. And to me, it's like, is suffering necessary to avoid obliviousness through life? Because it's a whole. If you
One of
agree,
my favorite lyrics is "You don't have pain unless you know suffering."
don't have pain unless you.
Well, we were just talking about this before we turned on the mics, about how like you shouldn't seek out suffering, but if you're gonna suffer, you should find some redemptive qualities to it.
Oh, and as a quick quote, sorry, let me edit. Don't have peace without suffering.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying. Yeah, sorry, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I thought that's what
you were like. You were like, and I'm like, oh wait, I messed it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
it takes something bad to know what something good is. It takes bad to know what good is.
But back to direct intervention.
So what I'm saying is like, the fact that this pain exists, it's painful for us, and it sucks that it's not being cured. I think sometimes the non-intervention is to allow it to exist for part of the path.
Okay, so the 5-year-old kid,
yeah,
are we telling him to grow up?
No,
still?
I disagree. I don't.
That's to the adults. That's not to the kids. That's to the adults.
Okay, so you're saying that? Okay, maybe there's a divine end to the 5-year-old that dies of starvation on the street.
I do think
we just may not understand in our human pea brains.
I think we personify every situation, even veganism and all this kind of stuff. It's like everything has to think like us individually think. So everybody's going to personify something a little bit different. And we do miracles, and we do animals, and we do God, and we do each other.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree with that. The thing is that if there was complete divine intervention, would all of the apostles have been martyred? I mean, I'm pretty sure they didn't want to be.
That was brutal.
A brutal martyring.
Well,
So-
as an evangelical, I always remember hearing in terms of prayer, like they would always use this argument in terms of suffering in the world. Well, God didn't step in and save his own son from dying on a cross.
All right. There's a certain saint who had to watch her own daughters be raped, and then she was murdered.
And I hate that answer. I hate
So, I
it.
mean,
It sucks.
Does suck.
so.
But
I
is
mean,
it okay? I don't know. That might be a whole nother discussion. That particular topic. No, that's a good.
we could spend a
very
long
good
time on
point.
that one.
Yeah, right. Like that's not something to quickly just go and go by. But that's another point. Like God's plan. Prayer. God's plan. Was it God's plan? Obviously, Jesus Christ coming down, and that's God's plan for that to happen. So he's not going to swing down and save him because that was the point. But what's the point of the 5-year-old? I guess dying on starvation on the street.
Tough thing is that suffering
Yeah.
seems to
Good
be
point,
part
Russ.
of the plan.
And that's the thing.
Is-
Okay, now if,
Or is
if
it-
a tree falls in the wood, there's some random anonymous 5-year-old dies and nothing comes of it except the tragicness of that in our little
We don't
podcast
think
discussion about
anything
this
comes of it.
hypothetical.
I don't think that makes it less sacred, though.
On Gumby's point, the 5-year-old dying, is the 5-year-old dying the point, or is him dying our judgment for not stepping in?
I mean, still, whether it's our judgment or not,
I
still
think
happening to a
suffering's going
5-year-old.
to happen regardless. We can't step.
Oh, it's going to happen either way.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
how
the
much
thing
could you
that's-
relieve?
That's now we're getting into the faith line. Hopefully that 5-year-old's in eternal, eternal happiness and eternal peace.
And we see age differently, I believe. You know what I mean? We give more value to a younger person because they have an experience through our eyes. Again, more personification, where God's really outside of those rules and those boundaries. He sees eternity.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
we're limited in our scope.
I agree. So we have one more beer,
Oh, shoot. All right.
And-
one more.
and
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
I promised proof of God tonight.
Oh, boy.
Wow, that's a big entry for this.
It's a
beer.
big, yep.
Maybe you should have led with that because that's pretty.
Dude, what, if he walks through the door right now.
I think it was a he,
Hey!
George. I thought you were.
Oh!
Crone juice. Which one didn't I pick yet?
That's so good, Lord. Let's see, Edward, you have not picked Burning River. You have not picked Burning River
Oh,
yet.
that's what this is. It's
Just
got
so
It
it.
is dark.
I've been
It is
listening to your
dark.
answers. I feel like you're going to be the winner today.
Oh man, I'm going with Burning River. Yep.
I don't know if I have either. I probably have.
That's number 6, right? Yep. I'm going Burning River. I got Burning River.
Well, you have to. It's one left.
Right.
Burns.
You have everyone. Whatever's left, you just put
It is a very smooth.
Oh
beer.
man, that's gonna be.
Where's
Very
no
smooth.
R?
It
Let's
doesn't
see.
burn. It is smooth.
I don't see any R here. So
I
this
don't
is
think
the
I've
Evan
ever had a
Fitzgerald
beer
for old
with
redhead.
All right, there you go.
I have jalapeno beer. I was expecting it to be spicy.
That was good. I
interesting.
love the jalapeno beer.
I don't.
It's so good. Oh, it's so
It was
good.
so. Well, you like the hoppy stuff.
Well, I like everything really.
I haven't had a spicy alcohol that hasn't like wrecked my
Now
stomach.
the jalapeno beer was not spicy.
It was not
The habanero
My
was.
favorite kind of beer is actually wine.
Okay. I've gotten into wine.
All right. I love wine. All right, so I'm going to dive into what I believe is proof of the supernatural.
Okay.
So, one day, a certain monk was offering the holy sacrifice of the Mass. Although we do not know his identity, an ancient document described him.
Lord.
Hold on.
Your proof is
As-
like we don't even know the identity.
You're not letting me
it's a
finish.
story.
All right, go.
Typical atheist. First in the
Off to a
sciences
bad start.
Is that a
of the
typical
world,
atheist thing?
but ignorant in that of God.
Oh.
And he's white, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh! Apparently, he had been plagued by doubts about transubstantiation. He agonized over whether the bread and wine changed substantially into the body and blood of our Lord at the words of consecration, and whether our Lord was truly present in the Eucharist. Now, I'm going to skip ahead. Shortly after the occurrence, the blood coagulated into 5 globulets of different sizes, but the flesh remained the same. The Archbishop ordered the investigation. The testimony of witnesses was recorded. The flesh and blood appeared to be human flesh and blood. The archbishop sent a scale for the weighing of the globules. Now, I'm going to skip ahead because...
Is this in Lanciano, Italy?
It is Lanciano. So, I'm going to skip ahead because they decided to test this. All right? So, the most thorough study occurred in 1970 and 71. Pope Paul VI, right, permitted a series of scientific studies on the precious relics to verify their nature. Dr. Ododo Linoli, professor of anatomy and pathology, pathological history, chemistry, and clinical microscopy, and head physician of the Hospital of Arezzo, conducted the study. He was assisted by Dr. Ruggero Bertelli, professor emeritus of human anatomy of the University of Siena. The analyses were performed in accord with scientific standards and documented, and Dr. Bertelli independently corroborated Dr. Linoli's findings. In 1981, using more advanced medical technology, Dr. Linoli conducted a second study. He not only confirmed the findings, but also gathered new information. The major findings from this research include the following. The flesh, yellow-brown in color, has the structure of the myocardium, heart wall, and the endocardium, the membrane of fibrous elastic tissue lining all the cardiac cavities. These have the same appearances as the human heart. No traces of preservatives were found in the elements. The blood was also of human origin with the type AB. Proteins in the clotted blood were normally fractioned with the same percentage ratio as those found in the seroprotein makeup of normal, fresh human blood. The blood contains these minerals: chlorides, phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, sodium, and calcium. Professor Linoli asserted that the blood, if taken from a cadaver, would have deteriorated rapidly. Given that these samples were centuries old, free of preservatives, and never hermetically sealed in the reliquaries, they didn't. They should have deteriorated. However, he underscored that the samples had the same properties as fresh human flesh and blood. This happened in 1980, and this miracle happened in 750 AD. Moreover, the doctors both conclude that only the skill of a trained pathologist could have obtained such a sample. A tangential cut of the heart, round cut, thick on the outer edges, and lessening gradually and uniformly to the central area. The beauty of the miracle of Lanciano reflects the words of our Lord, "I am the bread of life." Now, it gets more mysterious. Hold on.
Can I ask one question?
Go ahead.
If it's not a simple answer, just
Okay.
So exactly when and how did the blood or wine turn into blood? Like
It happened.
It happened right in front of everybody.
It happened during the mass in front of everybody. Yes.
Okay, so he's pouring it, and it's like clearly like a purple.
Yes. It
And then, like, all of a sudden,
coagulated
like,
in the cup
In 750.
When?
in 750 AD.
But also in 19.
No, in
they
1980
examined
it was
it again.
investigated.
Yes. It's been examined 3 times, okay? And every time it's been actual human flesh and actual blood. It's always
and there
been
are
on display.
more points to the story.
There
which
is more.
gonna-
There is more.
He's
Remember,
gonna-
remember it was A positive, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Alright.
remember it was A positive.
AB.
AB. I'm sorry, AB. AB.
It's not even the coolest.
In
Got all
19
these details
But
here.
Hold on.
It corresponds to other things.
Here we
that
go.
Happen around in different parts of the world.
In 1992, after the Mass of Friday, May 1st, while preparing the Eucharist reserve, a Eucharistic minister found some pieces of consecrated host on the corporal. Following what the church prescribes to do in these situations, the priest had them put in a vessel of water, which was then placed in the tabernacle to wait for them to dissolve. In the following days, several priests went to check on it, and they realized that nothing had changed. 7 days later, on Friday, May 8th, they opened the tabernacle and saw that the Eucharist host had become a reddish color that looked like blood. The following Sunday, May 10th, during the 2 evening masses, several small droplets of blood were noticed on the patens with which the priest distributed communion. On Sunday, July 24th, 1994, during the children's mass, while the Eucharist minister took the pyx from the tabernacle, he saw a drop of blood running alongside its side. On August 15th, 1996, during the Mass of the Assumption of the Holy Blessed Virgin, a consecrated host which fell to the ground during the distribution of the communion had to be placed again in a vessel of water so it would dissolve. A few days later, on August 26, a Eucharistic minister opened the tabernacle and saw that the host had transformed into blood. On August 26, the tabernacle was reopened to get the vessel with the fallen host, and it was observed that it was not dissolved and showed several reddish stains that became larger each day. The priest of the parish went immediately to the Archbishop of Buenos Aires to recount what had happened. It was decided to wait before the proceeding with the investigations, and in 1999, after the Archbishop was made aware of the fact that it was performed for free, these scientific investigations, he entrusted me to take up the case. This is first-hand account. On October 6, 1999, he went to Buenos Aires and interviewed the 5-priest witness of the event, who was told that there had been another consecrated host which had bled in 92. They put it in distilled water, which is the worst way to preserve something, and for this, it was very concerned. Everyone knows that when one draws blood, it is possible to obtain the leukocyte formula, the white blood cells. In blood, there is a variety of white blood cells with specific characteristics. The priests in the first miracle had asked one of their lady parishioners, who was a chemist, to analyze the bleeding host. She discovered that it was human blood, and that presented the entire leukocyte formula. She was very surprised to observe that the white blood cells were active. Anybody who knows anything about blood knows that white blood cells cannot remain active outside of the body. The lady doctor could not, however, do the genetic examination since at that time it was not easy to perform. They brought a sample from the 2 hosts which had bled before the archiepiscopal notary, who certified the legality of that action as requested by the authorities of the church in Argentina. At that point, before inviting him, then the Archbishop of Buenos Aires had already contacted the Holy See to ask for references. They were given the Most Reverend Gio de Franco Girardi, sorry, terrible at pronouncing these names, who then was Undersecretary of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith and Director Collaborator of Cardinal Ratzinger. The name should ring a bell.
Of course.
On October 21st,
Was the last pope.
he went to the Forensic Analytic Genetics Lab in San Francisco, which was supposed to perform the analysis of the samples. On the January 28th, they found some fragments of the human DNA in the samples. It was human blood that contained the human genetic code. In March of 2000,
Okay, I get it. So they keep testing the blood.
and it was
and
tested
it's like
and
new
tested.
blood. It's not aged blood, and this is a narrow.
And it's stuff
Yes.
that's happening in different parts of the world.
Around the world.
And they're investigated by different people who have no vested interest in being like, let's make these things all relate to each other.
They actually.
Now, before I do discuss, I just want to ask
Oh, yeah,
one
go ahead.
question,
Go ahead.
and that is, to what degree? Okay, so you two believe this.
It's
To
documented.
what degree do you throw in skepticism that this could be a hoax?
So-
Are you 100% in?
Here's the
Well,
problem.
That's what I'm asking. Are you 100% in?
I have to be. Every
And I think like a skeptic.
Zero chances of
and
hoax.
zero chance.
I think like a skeptic.
I'll tell you why. But
you
go
let
ahead.
me-
Go ahead.
So I think like a skeptic, in order to, because you kind of have to.
Yeah.
Like
I think you
unless
have to.
You have
right,
to.
You have to in order to come to the conclusion that it's like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
So you're
Because
100% into?
I'm thinking as he's going through that, like, oh, the timelines, they have a lot of time to like think about these things and like, well, how are we gonna do this? Let's make it correspond to that other one. But like, also, you can't fake white blood cells being alive
Right.
outside of the body. Like, you can't fake certain things. One of those, I think they.
I mean, you could fake anything.
that-
I watched David Copperfield
You can't fake this one.
walk through.
Can't fake this one. I'll
There, you
explain.
cannot say 100%
But-
it's not a hoax.
But here's the thing.
me
you
explain.
cannot
I
just
think-
say 100% there's no way that this is fake.
All right.
George,
At least give me
So-
99.9. You guys cannot be objective people and say that it's 100% accurate, perfect.
One more quote. Ready? One more quote.
It don't matter. It
One
don't
more
matter.
quote.
Again, it got tested 5 million times.
Give it to
by
me,
a million
atheist.
geniuses,
Give it to
and
me,
they all
atheist.
say-
Hold on. The sample which you brought me, this is the Professor Zigbee said to me,
I already know. I don't care.
is the muscle of the heart of the myocardium.
Blah blah blah.
It
This
is-
so relevant. and
listen,
real, blah blah blah.
listen.
That's all you're gonna say.
Notice how the atheist doesn't want to listen to facts.
Juice,
He
I
only
already
wants to
accepted it. I know what you're
believe.
gonna say.
He only wants to believe in his atheism.
Hey, listen, I'm.
It
willing
is.
To, listen, I'm
It is
ready for
precisely.
someone.
Listen. It is precisely the left ventricle, and he confirmed that my patient had suffered a lot. Then I asked him, Doctor,
Juice, I hope you
why
prove me wrong right now.
has
I'm gonna yell
my
at you.
patient suffered a lot? He answered, because your patient has some thrombi. At certain moments, he could not breathe. Oxygen did not reach him. He labored and suffered much because every aspiration was painful. Probably they gave him a blow at the level of the chest. Moreover, the heart showing dynamic activity at the moment when you brought me the sample. Why? I asked him. Because
A million doctors
Wait.
said this was good. Juice, I don't
wait,
care.
found
Okay, let's go
some.
ahead, let's have the
Let me
conversation.
finish.
Well, George,
Let me
let's
finish.
go ahead and have the conversation
me
about something
finish.
we didn't listen to.
Let me
Like,
finish.
You gotta know what you're arguing
Listen
against.
to the end. Because we found some intact white blood cells, and white blood cells are transported only by the blood. And thus, if white blood cells are here, it's because at the moment in which you brought me, the moment in which you brought me the sample, it was pulsating. It was pulsating. Hey, the atheist is so hardcore believing in his atheism, he can't hear facts.
Listen, I
Nope,
I-
nope, you
I
can't hear
could've stopped
facts.
you 10
You-
minutes ago when
nope,
you were reading.
nope.
I said, let's just accept that there was a million tests by a million geniuses that all say this
And then
is...
let's argue against
Okay,
something we didn't
let's
listen
go.
to.
But, I mean, it
Yeah,
don't matter
exactly.
because I hear it. Okay.
Blind atheist.
What I'm saying is, I accept what you say. I'm saying I don't have to hear it because you just read a list of blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Scientist A said this, blah, blah, blah. Smart guy said this. Okay, good. What I'm saying is,
Uh-huh.
you're 100%. You're saying there is 0% chance of a hoax. Like you have zero
Well,
skepticism.
Also, here's the
you
thing, George.
refuse.
So Catholics believe that the Eucharist is the body and blood of Christ, whether or not it's exhibiting that, whether or not it's showing it. So, in these instances, it was shown to people. They could see with their eyes and their senses, and they could test it.
Yeah,
Okay? But Catholics believe that it is regardless of whether or not they're seeing that. So, if you're a true Catholic, you'll say, yeah, 100%. I think so.
Now, all of this has been documented
But in this case,
by
it's been
scientists,
documented.
by doctors, by pathologists, by cardiologists. So you have to be a completely blind atheist to not examine facts.
Okay, all I could say.
And I will say, a lot of these scientists, they go into like, they weren't tipped off like, hey, this is the Catholic Church trying to like find out if this is God for real. Like they're not tipped off about what sample they're investigating.
And we know.
And
and how
some
do we
of
know
them
that?
were atheists.
They're all blind tests.
They're
Because
blind.
the
some of
pathologists
them were
themselves
atheists.
said they were not told about where it came from.
So you think they have a vested interest
that-
in
okay.
saying this is
So
something
that's
that...
beautiful. So again, going back to my comment 15 minutes ago when Juice kept reading. Okay, so a million scientists could not find a reason. All I'm saying is it's possible that science just doesn't have a reason for it yet, and there's a reasonable explanation why they're having a hard time. Not divine intervention or not that. like,
But
this
the
happened.
divine intervention part, do you think that's outside of the realm of possibility?
I have to okay.
It's
So
a big
I'm gonna
world.
throw
We
you
live
this
in a
bone,
big
is that I'm
world.
going to say yes, it is a possibility, but you also, as a reasonable thinker, need to say, hey,
Of course.
there's a chance. No, you guys said 100% just a second ago. You guys
Well,
won't
of
throw in that
course
it's a
you-
hoax.
w-
So I cannot throw out that. Yeah, maybe. I say I'm agnostic, right? I don't know what's happening. There could be a God that did it, but like for me to say 100, or for here to hear Juice say 100%.
Well,
That's not a
remember
hoax. Do you know
I
what the
said.
likelihood
remember I
is?
said
Okay,
you can be
well,
a
now-
Christian
now-
and
See right there, you're
question
saying likelihood.
everything.
Now, again, everything that we know, even scientific, is what we know at this time. So maybe 10 years from now, they say, "Oh, if a certain protein band is present,
Yeah.
white blood cells will pulse.
So-
For
Oh gosh, and I swear I'll call.
So-
you know, I mean,
I
I'm
will
just saying,
buy
you
all
have
the podcast.
you have to
30
understand-
years from now. We'll
So-
have it. I will fly us all in.
The cardiologist said that it would have been cut out of a human heart just before it was brought to him, and the patient would have had to have been living.
How do you know he wasn't? I mean, this isn't Buenos Aires or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
How do you?
Thank you.
How's the security on that?
What's
sample,
the chances
you know? I
that
mean,
every single one of these victims was AB blood type? Because, mind you, every single host that's been brought has been AB, and even the Shroud of Turin is AB.
How much
Maybe
blood was it?
maybe
Was it like a
it's the
pool of
second-
blood they were bringing, or was it like
You don't need
A
a
drop
pool
of
of
blood.
blood for
You
a
don't-
test.
was that?
You don't
Minuscule.
need a pool of blood for a test.
You don't.
So you just need a drop of blood.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
So you just need one drop of fresh blood from the left ventricle. That's it.
Oh, no.
I'm-
It's not
I'm
blood.
just saying.
This is heart tissue. It's heart
That's it?
tissue.
That's it. All right. I'm just saying it's a lot,
You know what the likelihood is?
I'm pretty
From around the
sure
world.
and I'm just
You
saying.
need
Okay.
what you need.
With
Right.
multiple
Listen,
witnesses.
I won't eliminate.
Multiple witnesses, multiple
Well, he was just
scientists.
saying, I won't eliminate.
I won't. I listen. Objectively speaking,
Mm-hmm.
there is no scientific answer for why this has happened. I would argue, as Russ just said, somewhere down the road they might very well find a scientific reason,
But they haven't yet.
but they haven't yet. So though I cannot 1,000% or 100%, as Juice said, count out divine intervention. I mean, I smell hoax. Like you said,
Well, no,
someone
but
is already.
I think we should have just agreed to 99.9 on both sides.
So why?
And then
would
your
they-
subjectivity and your Catholicism and Christianity will give you that 100. If you want to be 100, fine. But you also have to understand.
But let me ask you this: why does it
I want this.
make it sound like a hoax because it's in Buenos Aires? Are they not as smart as us?
Yeah.
Are they more primitive?
Oh,
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
because it's
that's from the
Buenos Aires.
liberal. That's from the
it's in the-
liberal.
Oh,
She's like, what's everybody looking at me?
Like they have just as they have just as advanced technology as it.
They really do.
as we
Yes.
do.
So my question
So-
is, what is the big picture of this conclude?
No, no.
Is this actually the blood of Christ? Then is that
No,
what we're
mind
saying?
you, it was tested in Buenos Aires and then tested in the United States.
body.
So it was
Well, we
tested in
believe
two
that it's
countries.
The body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ is all together. So the body and blood is the same thing.
So is the Catholic Church accepting this as the body of Christ?
They do.
They do, but they always go into it they're more skeptical than anybody. So they go in it with complete, and that's
Remember, we talked
that's
about
why
this,
they
Gumbi,
have
on-
multiple people tested. This one. Now, do you know who the Archbishop was at the time? It was Jorge Bergoglio,
Pope Francis.
Pope Francis. He hid this. He did not want anybody to know about it because
because he knows it's bullshit.
they don't like people to come to the church to look at baubles. Okay? They want you to come to the church because you sincerely are seeking God. Okay? And I've literally I have literally been told this. I have literally been told this over
They
and
don't
over
wanna
again.
Reduce Christianity to tchotchkes.
Exactly. There's enough
people-
sideshows.
Well, wait a
out
minute.
there.
You're
They're
saying it's not a
looking at-
tchotchke, though.
It's not.
But they don't want people thinking that. Like, ooh, let me come to look at the Eucharist that turned into... No, like...
These are usually hidden until they can be proven. And without a shadow of a doubt, they have multiple scientists check these things. Multiple doctors check these things. Because they don't want the name of Christ to be smeared anywhere. And so they go through multiple checks, and they are the most skeptical of anybody.
Remember, Gumbi, we talked about... there was an episode about Marian apparitions and Lourdes, France, and the things that have allegedly happened there. And we talked about how Catholicism is the only sect of Christianity, the only sect of any religion that has like medical boards that look into things and diligently.
I do respect that. You guys
know?
have a very stringent process. So
because
out
they
of
don't want to
many
become a
so-called
joke.
miracles, like I don't know what the number is, like over 90% or 95% are rejected, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So I get that. So I just want to hear you guys say though that that's the body of Christ.
That's the body of Christ.
What?
I think so. I think it's not
God
outside
bless
the
you.
realm of possibility. We live in a big world, and we don't know how we got here. You can claim you do know, but you don't. You can't refute God. So until you can refute Him, you can't refute that this is God.
I never really liked that argument. Not that I really want to go that direction right now at the end of our podcast, but I don't feel great. I don't know. I don't feel great with you. Like, just because science hasn't proved it yet. I mean, there's so many things that science.
Mr. I'm Science.
Science hasn't proved already. Like, but it will in time. In our lifetime, there's things we weren't sure about, and then time came, and then we were able to explain them. And just could be one of those things. Just because we can't explain it right now through the science that we have doesn't mean that we're not.
I disagree.
So that does not mean that it's.
And I disagree because science disagrees with you. In fact, the scientists that I listen to,
Juice?
including
new science, new information's going to happen.
including people like Newton, including people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, they will tell you there's avenues that cannot be explored by science and were not meant to be explored by science because science is about testing physical properties. It's not about testing anything that's spiritual or mental. For example, you can't prove consciousness. You can't prove consciousness. You can't prove philosophy.
But then you don't need your whole thing right now. Then what you're saying?
Your whole argument is done.
It's a verification.
No, you just said it's not because there's things that aren't meant to be explained and understood. So you just read all that stuff for no reason.
No. What I'm saying is this is God trying to tell us through our own processes.
I don't know. You just took a left on me right there, buddy.
I didn't. No, I didn't. What I'm saying is...
Did he not take a left right there?
Mike's being pretty quiet.
Did I?
My opinion of it is like Gumbi. It's pretty hard for me to say it's literally the body of Christ that you're consuming in there, but that's not a deal breaker of any way. And I'm not gonna, criticize you guys for believing that. I think it's a cool thing. I would have some doubt because I think people are shitty, and I think I could see people kind of like somehow smuggling something in, that
Loving the numbers.
Yeah, paying
doing,
someone off. I mean, we are talking about a country who's monetarily unstable, so I do think people can
multiple countries though.
I mean, we live in America, who it might be more expensive, but multiple countries are financially unstable. I'm just saying, there's a big shadow of a doubt for me.
Yeah.
I love the story.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. I will share it to my other non-believers, but I have a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. And did I mention that they were able to pull a DNA profile off of all of these? And what's really mysterious about the DNA profile is that only the woman's DNA shows up.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Okay, so here's what you do. You pay him a bunch of money. You take the test that the other person gave him, and you go, "Hey, run the test, but I want this."
Right.
But
that's very practical. That could have happened behind closed doors.
You're talking about multiple scientists, multiple doctors. That would require a lot to make that happen.
And did the same governing body, the same church, ask for these tests, right?
No, because it's actually the individual areas that ask for this. So it's not the same church. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So
it was all Catholic churches, though?
The Vatican does not pay for this stuff.
Probably,
okay.
Because it's Eucharist. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the Vatican does not pay for this stuff. It's individual research firms that does this. Third party.
So the Catholics are backing up all of their own research?
No, it's again, all these studies were done by completely secular firms, and they were done as blind studies because they
brought
did not
in by
want
the Catholics.
No.
I don't know, man.
The
Catholics
scientists,
got a lot of pull, a lot of cash.
The scientist that brought this to the United States was actually not even a Catholic. He wanted verification. That's why he brought it to the United States.
So you said the guy who sat on it, though, who eventually became the Pope, what was his reason for sitting on it again?
He did not want it to be aired. Again, most Catholics, most bishops, they want you to find your path to Christ. They don't want to be putting, again, what do you say, tchotchkes out there? Yeah.
But remember when Jesus said, "Don't go and tell everyone about this"?
Right.
Yeah.
Why did he say that? because he doesn't want people to be worshiping the miracle that he did.
Yep.
Like, he doesn't want to bring people to that. He wants to bring people to him. Like, people can be wrong-headed about how they go about worshiping something. Let me worship the bleeding statue versus like what it represents, or let me worship this bleeding piece of,
Because
like,
people do.
Yeah.
right.
People
do wrong-headed things, and they become like tchotchke minded.
But if they were
really,
a multitude of them,
you know what I'm saying?
wouldn't they all
I know
become
that's
just okay, we get it, it's all real. Now I can look at the bigger picture. Like if there's 4, okay, I might get caught up in the tchotchke portion. But if there's thousands of them all over the world, obvious miracles witnessed on iPhones. Hey, look at this miracle!
That should
Damn,
be the name of this
real.
That should be.
I think I'd be like,
Believer, yeah, I don't know,
right?
that's- yeah.
Like why not take that
Well-
tact? Why this super rare impossibility for one little thing? Why not just say, you know what? Everyone gets a bleeding heart in their box tomorrow.
Yes, that would
You
be
know,
awesome.
I
And then I'd
mean,
be a
why not
believer.
just you're God?
It's even happened on
If-
camera,
I've
by
talked
the
about
way.
If I could be changed by Jesus Christ walking through the door, I'm not about that test thing, but I'm just saying, if he walked through the door, said, "Hey, it's real, good, you guys are good, okay, see you, I'm off to the next."
Boom, done.
Like we'd
I'm
all
a believer the
we'd
rest
all
of
be
my
pretty f***ing happy.
Yeah.
Let's go, okay, let's go be
Let's
good
change the-
people, man.
Let's change the podcast.
Yeah, like we're it's legit. Like I'm not saying that's what I need. I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about the normal tchotchke chumpo
But
that's like
I-
worshiping a candle, like why not?
I don't think we get better that way.
I
though.
do believe in a God of miracles.
now you're getting
like
into semantics.
miracles, and those miracles can come about in a number of ways. Like I told you guys, and now I'm telling people in like Saudi Arabia, which I feel weird about, but like all over the world, that like I have been in chronic pain, and it has been really bad at times. And Aaron knows, like Juice knows, like there are some times when I come over here and I'm like, I feel like a burden being here. I think that God in my lifetime will heal me in a verifiable way. I really do. Like, even though I've said like some things about when we were talking about prayer before, like, I feel like prayer sometimes is futile. And like, why the hell am I doing this? Why do I expect that God would help me when he let all these Jews die? Or like lets kids be killed in automobile accidents or whatever you have, like, but I think that God in my lifetime will do something that is medically verifiable. I really do. And even if he didn't, like, I'm still gonna, like, we're all going one place. We're all gonna die. And I feel like,
But I have a question about the tchotchkes though. But isn't the Bible just full of those? Right?
Well, what do you
Isn't it just
mean?
full of like him turning like water into wine, and him like healing like was it a blind woman? Isn't it just
The
full of
loaves
like
and
him
the
rising
fishes.
from the dead? Just isn't it full of those? And then like,
but that
at the
was
same
about.
motion, that's
It
what it's
wasn't
there for you to
about
believe.
that. Like, hey, everyone gather around the wine and worship the wine
No,
that
but
God just
it's
made.
one of those things. It's like,
It's
hey,
like,
listen,
no,
this is the
worship
strength of what this
God.
man could do.
And that was his like cats out of the bag moment. Like
But it's full
the
of your-
wedding at Cana
okay.
was his like
It's
the
full of
cat's
the
out of the bag.
but the
Shit,
cat's not
this is my
out of the bag enough.
Public
He can do it
ministry.
again, but you dismiss that. So it's okay when he does it in the Bible, but you're like, it's kind of tchotchke if he does it in modern day.
Yeah, well, I think the argument is that like in the Bible is a different story than the church deciding whether it gets out to the public or not. I'm kind of against it. I'm with you. I think like let's make it public because God might be trying to work here.
And you guys are holding him back. Yeah, right.
So now he's got his blind pan beat.
Yeah,
you know what
like-
I mean? So it's like like
we can,
we're not arguing God at this point. You know what I mean? Now we're arguing politics. You know.
Good point.
There we go.
Interesting.
Beautiful, Mike.
All right.
Ending words. I
Yeah.
love it.
This was a great night. Russ, any final words?
No, that was great. Thank you for having me.
Edward?
Bye everyone. Take care. Have a great night or morning, depending on where you are.
Mike?
So long, folks. Thanks for joining.
Gumby?
Not the taboo over brew.
Hey, I'm glad to have
George.
Mike back on the team. Thank you, Mike, for coming in today, my buddy. And hail Satan.
Don't forget to catch us on all social media. Please try to contribute on Patreon or on anchor.fm/Bible Over Brews. We'd appreciate the contributions. And we'd also like to give a big shout out to Great Lakes. Thank you for all your stupendous, not just the beers, but contributions to our economy and our ecology. We will reveal.
Right.
We'll reveal who won the Great Lakes quiz in our Facebook group.
Well,
All right.
No, I want to know.
industry, we
No,
call
we'll
that a
cut it
teaser.
and then we'll tell you.
Everybody, Godspeed.
Bye.